So here we're gonna play with the random um, generator, random number generator in Java, and we're gonna see how it works. So first, to call it, well, I'm gonna make a double because it outputs double, and I'm gonna call it random. So it gives us a random number. The way I use the random function is math.random. Math.random, I think, and then nothing in there. And then I just want to show you what happens. System.out.println, and I'm going to print out random. So what should print out is just whatever this generates, and this generates a number between 0 and 1, meaning it'll never output 0, and it will also never output 1. So let's see what happens here when I run it. Okay, that's the first time I ran it. Oh, also, by the way, if you clear screen at method call, you don't have to push clear every time. It automatically clears it. I'll run it again, and I should get a different number. 0.5999. So these will be different every time, or most likely different every time. It's a very low probability that they'll be the same. So 0.5, almost 0.6. And then I run it again, and I'll get a different thing. 0.4. So it outputs something between 0 and 1. Well, what if I want a number like, I want a number between 1 and 10. Let's say that. Well, I can use this and do a little bit of math so that I get actual integers. We'll see that in a minute. But let's think. If this prints out something that's between 0 and 1, it never prints out 1. So if I multiply a random number, this, or random, if I multiply that by 10, since it, so like if I had 0.9 times 10, I'm definitely going to get something smaller than 10. The only way I can get 10 or bigger is if I multiply by 1 or bigger. So this actually gives me something small. So if I do 0.9856, this will give me something smaller than, it'll give me 9.856 times 10. If I wanted something between 1 and 5, I can multiply by 5, because, watch, 0.98637, that's not even a 3, times 5, I will never get a number 5 or over. Okay, so that gives me 4.9. But then, so like you're thinking, well, that doesn't give me 1 through 5, that just gives me something that's less than 5. So here's what I can do. System.out.print random number. Okay, so what I'm going to do, that's the random number, it'll print that out, and then I want to take, and what do I want to do? I want to take a double, no, integer. I'm going to make it an integer, and I'll cast it into an integer. Integer, and then I'll say actual number. So I'm going to make this between 1 and 10. So I'll take the random number that's put into random. I'll take that. And I'm going to multiply it by 5. So times, what did I say? By 10? 1 through 10? I don't know. I'm going to do it through 1 through 10. So times 10. So this will give me a number between 0 and 10. It's actually going to give me, I think, well, this is a double, isn't it? And I'm putting it into an integer. What happens? Semicolon. Semicolon. Do I get an error? I do. I'm taking a double and I'm putting it into an integer. So I can change that. I can cast this into an integer, which means it just truncates. It just takes away all the decimals. It just drops them off. And I can cast it by going int, just right next to it. So int, this takes this double and then just cuts off all the decimals. But I also multiplied it by 10 because that'll get me out of the 0 to 1 range. Let's see what happens here. This, I think, gives me from 0 to 9, because the numbers that actually get output, let's do two things. We'll do two things here. I'll print out system.out.println, This is kind of scattered, but hopefully it still makes sense. I'll say your number before casting to int. And that will be just this. And then, well, I guess that's it for that. And then system.out.println your number after casting. And then do this. So that's actual number because I casted it and then I stored it. And I'm also going to make this a little bit more specific. So system your random number between 0 and 1. I'd say, well, 0 and 1. It's a double. So do that. I think this will compile. Cool. So let's see what happens. First, we're going to print out something between 0 and 1, just some long decimal. Then we're going to print out that number times 10. And we should see that we'll never get 10 or bigger. We'll get anything less than 10. And this will be decimals. And then after that, it'll take off the decimals and just make it an integer. So let's see. Did I compile? Yes. Run. So let's see. Your number between 0 and 1 is 0.0 blah, 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 blah. So once we change it into, we times it by 10, so it moved to this, but then we cast it to an integer, and it just rounds. Or not, it doesn't even round, it just truncates. It just takes off all of this stuff. So the only thing that's left is 0. Let's see what happens if I run it again. We should get a different number. Okay, so this was 0.98, blah, 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 blah. And then before casting to an integer, we got this, and then it just drops it off. So we don't get 10 because it'll just drop off this stuff. This will never be 1, so this will never be 10, so that will never be 10. Hopefully this is making sense. I'm going to run it again. Hopefully you can understand what the heck's going on. So this one, multiplying it by 10, moves that decimal over, and then it just truncates it, gets it off. So what if you wanted to do between between 1 and 10? Right now we're getting numbers that are between 0 and 9. Well, you just add 1. This might be more understandable if I times by 5. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to times by 5. That'll give me the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 if I multiply by 5. And I'll run that. Because 10, you just think, oh, it's moving the decimal over. Yes, it is, but it's a little bit more math than that. So let's see this now. So if we multiply this by 5, it'll give us something. And see, so now if I multiply this by 5, we're technically getting 83% of 5, which is 4 point whatever, whatever, whatever. But then when we truncate, it gets to 4. We're never going to get more than 83 or more than 99.99999% of whatever we're multiplying by. Oh, I hope this is making sense. So then we'll always get 0 all the way up to 4 if we're multiplying by 5. So how do you get 1 through 5? Well, it's very, very simple, very easy. You just take this and then add 1 afterwards, right? Because if we're getting from 0 to 4, now this will get us 0 to 5, or no, 1 to 5, right? Because the lowest value would be 0, add 1, now it's to a 1. The highest value would have been 4, add 1, now it's 5. And then I'll do that to this as well. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how to get a number including 1 through 5. Just a random number. Let's watch it. Let's see if that happens. Whoops. So we get 2. Let's see. Let's keep going until we get a 5. Oh, there we go. Got us a 5. That's what I wanted. Right? Hopefully that makes sense. See, right now it's still before casting. This is actually before adding as well. But this becomes 5.96449 whatever. Then we add 1, so it's 5.96 blah 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 blah. But then the decimal part gets truncated. This was a long video. Hopefully you understand how to get a random number in the range that you want. But there you go.